understand like real estate in general is a very capitalist industry. People are not like in my experience, most of the industry does not understand rent to own. Like your regular everyday realtor does not understand, regular everyday mortgage person does not transact on a regular basis. Right? So they do not, like for you and I, we have very different criteria for what they would consider a good rent to own.
Exactly.
Right? Because I've literally seen this. I had a builder sending me rent to own deals that made no sense. Right?
Yeah.
Like the tenant is like 2 years from retirement.
Oh.
Right. So how are they supposed to get a mortgage? Come buyout time. Yeah. But so like my point is, even though I believe in the strategy can work really well, not every opportunity is truly an opportunity.
No, it's actually quite a lot of work to find a qualified tenant buyer.
Right.
It is.
What do you think the ratio is? Like 1 in 10?
A lot worse. I put that in my book too. So when I started, I was actually looking. Back in the days, it was Kijiji. I think now people use Facebook Marketplace more. So the media changes. The point is, at that time, I probably talked to 100 people. 10 looked promising, ended up with 1.
Wow.
That was
so
my
one more time.
First one.
So 100 leads. 10 are worth talking to.
10 worth going to the next step. I probably talked to so many people at the time, I don't even remember. And
right.
I mentioned I live in a small house. So when I was on the phone with the potential tenant buyers, everybody in the house knew what to say and what I'm usually going to talk about on the phone. Yeah, that's how many calls I've been on. It's very active. It's just like wholesalers when they start, they have to talk to how many people, right? Same idea. And that very first deal, I also wholesaled it to somebody else. Wholesaling meaning I got the deal, I packaged it, I found a tenant buyer, they found a market, then some other investor take over.
At what point do you present it to other investors? Do you have the property in mind already, or where?
Usually when I have the tenant buyer, because very quickly very quickly they will start shopping. So very quickly we'll have to make offers. Yeah, right. It's better to have the investors ready already, right?
Right, because they're the ones who are actually buying the property. Right. So thank you for sharing those ratios. I think people need to understand these things. I guess so. Don't just take the first one that comes across.
Yes, and I would say also in the beginning, everybody was talking about their life problems, right? Because they're rental tenants, they've rented for a while, they're divorced or they're self-employed, their credits are hurt. So they want to tell you their life story. Yes, make the connection. Yeah. However, I used to spend like 40, 50 minutes and still didn't get to the questions I want answered. Right. In the end, 15 minutes, I could get all that I need to say if they most likely will qualify or not. So it's not a total waste considering how much time I used to spend on it.
Right. So you were putting in the sweat to earn your wholesale commission.
At the time, and especially I was really active when I started, so 2017. So remember the market kept going up.
Yeah.
And that's
and then it came down.
Came down a little bit. So at that time, a lot of tenant buyers are interested. I don't see as many people as interested now. At the same time, even investors, when the market goes up, everybody was worried they are in too late. So the tenant buyers, same thing. They want to get into a house sooner than later, especially they hear other homeowners are profiting, right?
Right.
Yeah. So there were a lot of people at the time looking into it compared to now.
So even rent-owned tenants were like FOMO.
Oh yeah, homeowners are emotional, right? Yeah.
So you're telling me that their behavior, emotions were the same as homeowners, home buyers.
They're very emotional as home buyers, because when they look at a house, they don't look at the worst house on the market. Like we're looking for money in the bank.
You and I are different. Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes I see a property, I'm like, just put in a little bit of money, and it worked really well, great area. They want it to be like a home.
Turnkey. Show nice.
Turnkey.
Yeah. Something they can be proud of.
Yeah, so staged nicely and just like a home.
Now, what markets are you looking at?
For rentals?
Yeah.
Everywhere. So I'll tell you every time people ask, in Ontario alone, so as far as outside of Kingston, Durham, which I've done, Oshawa, Toronto, London, Strathroy, Woodstock, so north to Barrie, Midland, so it really doesn't matter.
Right. No, it doesn't matter. I've heard of all these cities.
Oh yeah, okay.
Versus, You have some minimum criteria, do you not?
Yes. In Ontario, it's slightly harder because they have to have certain level of income to be able to qualify. And again, we don't anticipate them to fail. However, if you hold that property, you have to be able to sell it.
Right.
If you buy a property,
you plan for the worst.
Yeah. If you buy a property with 300 people in the neighborhood, how are you gonna exit? So yes, all these considerations.
Do you have a number for your minimum population? Like 50,000, 10,000?
You know what's funny? Sometimes, because we've been qualifying for so many different municipalities, I've talked to so many different cities as a result. Every city is different. So sometimes I'll give you an example. Gravenhurst, they might consider us only this many people. But if you consider the surrounding, and it's a good community.
Yeah, if it's summer versus winter, it's very different. How many people
it's
are there?
Things like that. So as long as you understand the market, I would say not like 1,000. No, that's kind of small.
Right.
Another indicator is sometimes they don't have city service of sewer and things like that.
Right.
Not
because those are hard to get financing on if they're not on city water. Yeah.
Also means that it's not populated enough.
Yeah.
It's things like that.
Yeah.
It's not an absolute no because the city is moving towards those places too.
Right.
So it really depends on the market.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, you're approaching this sophisticated. You're not just blindly buying anything.
No, you know how listeners too, they just want a simple 3 rules. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Do I buy or not if there's a septic? It's things like that. However, really you look at the overall picture, I mentioned.
Yeah.
That's usually an indicator it's a smaller community. However, it's the city moving in.
Right.
Yeah, it's things like that.
Yeah, the last property we bought with the septic, we got a huge discount on. It was the entire neighborhood was serviced. Mm-hmm. Just this one homeowner chose not to connect to city water services, right?
Yeah.
And so it was a massive stigma. Well, it does cost money, right? But yeah, instead of like 12 offers, there was only 3 offers. Mm-hmm. So for us, it was opportunity, and our client made a ton of money.
I would think that's an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yes, you're right. I love it. I love the point. And they got traditional financing. Mm-hmm. So again, it's not an easy answer.
Yeah.
So
it all depends, right?
It all depends. So have a good team to make these decisions.
Yeah, I will also want to add something to it because I had investor. I think the power teams are there, and you have so many power team member. They're there to advise you. You ultimately still have to make the decision. Mm-hmm. If one power team member says no to you, it doesn't mean that's your decision. I still think you have to collaboratively make a decision and what makes sense to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like rent to own, it might not make sense to somebody, but it makes sense to me for my journey.
But that's what I love about this podcast is that, for example, some people get into real estate because they see an ad, they go to the workshop, they're like, what's taught there, whatever, right? Whatever they teach there might not be right for you, right? And that's why, like some of these workshops are intended for people to go full-time real estate investor. So I think it's good information. Yeah. But 95% of those folks who go will never become full-time real estate investors, and probably 80% will never buy an investment property.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, a lot of people coming even to our boot camp, for example, they want simple answer. Just tell me exactly what to do, which property to buy.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's complicated.
Especially if you want above market returns, which you and I want. To be a market insider is not easy.
Exactly.
Right? It takes years. Right?
Yeah, and also I think a lot of it is just you can decide what you want to do, but a lot of it's a mindset, right? Really, it's not. You're not gonna get to it the very next day. However, a lot of people going to different places thinking I'm just gonna get the answer and get it done the next